My name is Amy Teitelman. I'm the Cincinnati Regional Director for an organization called For Our Future Ohio. We are a labor union funded super PAC that was founded in early 2016. And if you know anything about super PACs, anybody heard of super PACs? So they're super political action committees. They are able to raise and spend an unlimited amount of money on electoral contact, electoral stuff. But we are not permitted legally to coordinate with any candidates, parties, or their campaign. And I believe that my organization is necessary because there are certainly super PACs funded by corporate interests and maybe less democratic institutions who are raising and spending definitely unlimited amounts of money on the election. So I'm really proud that I'm working for a super PAC that is funded by labor unions. Our main funders are the AFL-CIO, both teachers unions, so the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers, AFSCME, which is Public Sector Workers Union, and then an organization you might have heard of called Next Gen America. So those are our 5 main funders, 4 of them being labor unions and 1 of them being a nonprofit activism organization. So I'm not going to talk a lot about specific candidates because they differ over Ohio, and a lot of you are from 501c3 organizations, and the interest of this is really more how do we register, protect, and mobilize voters, which I think we all agree that more of that is better in a democratic society, no matter who people are voting for. However, of course, our organization tends to support candidates who we believe will most uphold our values, and our values, being a labor union funded organization, come from the values of working families here in Ohio. And we have 4 main pillars that drive our work, and they are education, the environment, jobs in the economy, and racial and social justice. So when we're thinking about all those issues and identifying the candidates in Ohio that we want to support, we're thinking about who's going to do the best job, create the best climate for things to get better on those pillars. So that is who For Our Future is. We are all over Ohio. Besides Cincinnati, we are in Dayton, Cleveland, Lorain, Toledo, Akron, Youngstown, Southeast Ohio, Columbus. I don't think I missed anybody. Whoever I did, my coworkers will kill me. But I think I got everyone. So a few weeks ago, we work with a blog in Columbus, put out by an activist in Columbus called Swing State Voices that I recommend taking a look at. It's a good blog, content every week or so. And I wrote a little guest post for Swing State Voices about canvassing. So how many of you have knocked on doors for the election?
Not this one, but I have.
But at all, ever. Okay. How many of you, raise your hand again, keep them up. How many of you have knocked on like more than 100 doors? More than 500 doors? More than 1,000 doors?
Not 1,000.
Okay, so like it's hard, right? It's hard to knock on 1,000. You don't do it all at once. Like you try. So it's hard work to knock on doors, right? And whether you have a volunteer program or a paid program, which we have, but there's just a lot of obstacles, right? It costs money. It takes resources. If you pay people, you have to pay them a fair wage. We pay people $15 an hour. I think that's fair. I think that's the minimum, right? So, but we pay people commensurate with what our values are. So we pay our folks $15 an hour. Besides paying them, we have to train them, right? We have to give them a good environment. We have to be there when they knock on a door and a voter slams the door in their face, or they encounter a rogue dog, or rickety porch steps, or all kinds of Cincinnati weather, right? It is hard. People get the cops called on them canvassing. People of color get the cops called on them canvassing disproportionately. There was a candidate somewhere in another state who was an African American who got the cops called on her. So people get the cops called on them doing democracy, right? It's like not a friendly environment to do this. So it's hard, it's challenging, that's why people don't do it. It also costs money, like I said, and there is, as you all know, an ever-growing arms race of pouring money into ads. the one candidate does it, so the other candidate does it. The one PAC does it, so the other PAC does it. And so all this money is going into ads and yard signs and direct mail, all of which have varying levels of effectiveness. But the one thing that they cannot do is dialogue with a voter. So phone banking is challenging, right? Because people don't pick up their phones anymore. That's changing. Text banking is something that's working really well, and it's a new tool that a lot of organizations are taking advantage of. It's not something that we're doing right now, but our partners do it and we support it. But door-to-door canvassing is the one thing that steadily remains one of the best ways to engage voters. And that is because I heard, your name is Catherine. Catherine talked about, you had the Got Issues poster, and Dawn mentioned like people have a new reason. So everybody has an issue. And a well-trained canvasser can interface with a person at the door, and they can talk whatever issue they're talking about, whether it's healthcare, or whether it's the environment, or whether it's the potholes on their street, which you won't be surprised that infrastructure is a huge issue that we hear about all the time in Cincinnati. A well-trained canvasser can take that issue and connect it to why that person needs to get out and vote. Because we all know, I think everybody's mentioned, it's not just getting people to vote a particular way, although certainly we want people to vote a particular way. We want people to get off their couch and go vote. And the best way to do that, short of visibly dragging them, which we don't do, but there are some ladies in vans that do that, and I commend them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They do it in a very gentle way. But we short of that, it's having an actual conversation, dialoguing, interfacing with a person, and having a deep conversation with them about what their issues are and why their issue is directly connected to voting is the best way to do it, whether it's through a volunteer program or a paid program. And you know, we talked about, other speakers have talked about all of the obstacles that stand in the way. I talked about some of the obstacles and like how hard it is to canvass, but certainly there is a huge problem with disenfranchisement in this country and in this state. Whether it's purging, whether it's closing polls, whether it's gerrymandering, there's a huge deliberate effort to disenfranchise voters. And the people and institutions who are interested in disenfranchising voters have a particular ideological lean. And that's just true. And so first of all, it's undemocratic to disenfranchise voters. And secondly, the voters who are being disenfranchised tend to vote a certain way. And so this disenfranchisement isn't just an accident. It isn't just like a bad system, even though it is. It's deliberate. And so there's an uphill battle to fight back against that. And one way to fight back against that is to talk individually to voters. Because not only can we talk to them about their issues, we can help them problem solve. We can help them identify where their polling place is. They might say, well, my aunt lives with me and she just moved here and she's not registered yet, and we can help them with that. So there's all kinds of ways that these constant contacts with voters help mobilize voters and help move mass numbers of voters to the polls. And we are able, fortunately, to do this on a large scale. We are going to be knocking on over 750,000 doors this election cycle in Ohio by November 6th. So 750,000 doors is more than 750,000 voters, because there's often more than one voter at a door. That doesn't mean we talk to all of them. We aim to talk to people at about 20% of those doors. But that's still a huge number of voters that we can reach. And of course, we need literature at every door that we don't talk to someone. Here in the Cincinnati area, and by the way, this isn't just for our future. We work with some partners. I'm not going to be able to remember all of them, but we work with partners like the Ohio Organizing Collaborative. I'm talking about the partners who are knocking for us, but definitely Poor People's Campaign is one of our partners on volunteer mobilization. We work with Ohio Environmental Council. We work with Working America. So our partners, in addition to us, are definitely knocking on doors too. Did you have a question?
Yeah,
Can you hold it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to be done in just a minute. So along with our partners who we fund to knock on doors, again, 750,000 doors in Ohio, and here in the Cincinnati area, we're going to be knocking over 93,000 doors by the time the election is up. So that is what we do, and I know that everybody wants to know what they can do. So there are a few things that I encourage people to do. So one thing is, like I said, this work costs money. And even if an organization has a volunteer program and they're not paying people and volunteers are coming in, it still costs a lot of money to train those people, to feed those people, to dedicate the staff time to making volunteers feel heard and understood and like they're having a good experience and like they have someone to talk to if they have a bad day on the doors. So I would say, first of all, if they're, hopefully you all donate to candidates that you like. If there are particular candidates that you like, definitely donate to that candidate. But also if you notice that a candidate or that an independent expenditure group which would be a group that's doing work on the PAC side, like For Our Future or Planned Parenthood, or all of the unions have an electoral program. If you like the way that a group is doing something, give them some money. We don't need to raise a lot of money at For Our Future, but there are other organizations that I mentioned for their electoral programs. It's not a bad idea to consider donating to their political programs if you prefer to do that than donate to a particular candidate. And then, of course, I'm always going to recommend canvassing. So I'm going to send around at the end of this a way to sign up for my email list if you're not already on it. We are recruiting paid canvassers, and so if you have people in your life who are looking for a good part-time job involved in electoral politics, this is a great opportunity for someone, and I would love you to pass it along for them if it's not you. If you don't want to take on a everyday paid canvassing gig, I do recommend canvassing, if you can do it, with another organization. The organizations I send people to are the labor effort, so I send people to the AFL-CIO and other unions who have regular canvases. And Planned Parenthood conveniently canvases right out of our office, and it's very easy for me to sign you up to volunteer with them. So there are certainly many other roles that are critical for an election. I don't remember who talked about, was it you that talked about voter protection on election day? There's all kinds of things that are needed.